recording. Today's date is April 27, 2025. We are having an Israeli Palestinian open discussion meeting. We're not going to have a simulation, but an open discussion. The audience is invited to ask questions and to challenge the idea of a common federal government for the people of Palestine and Israel together. You are encouraged in this session today to ask questions, to challenge the idea from all aspects, and to express your skepticism, and also to express your belief that this idea is a valid idea. We, the Israeli Palestinian Confederation organization, believe that it is the only solution viable. We do not discourage other ideas for peace in the Middle East, meaning in Israel, Palestine. But we believe that under the circumstances, the only thing that makes sense is to have a common federal government for the people of Israel and Palestine. Before we get into the questions or skepticism question and answer session, I would like to give a brief description of what we are proposing, and then we will open up to questions. And I would really appreciate it if you can focus on what we are proposing rather than divert the conversation into the what's going on in Israel, Palestine. You can do that, but I would appreciate it if you can focus on on what is being presented to you and what we are what we have gathered here to do. We are proposing a common federal government for the people of Israel, Palestine, that would include the entire area that would be in Gaza, the West Bank, and Israel, from the river to the sea, from the state of Jordan, from the country of Jordan on the east, the country of Syria in the east, the country of Lebanon in the north, and the country of Egypt in the south. This whole area is commonly referred to as Israel Palestine. It encompasses 14 million people in that area. We are proposing to create a legitimate government, democratic government for the entire population, regardless of their nationality or their religion. A democratic government based on a constitution, based on traditional principles of democracy, meaning 3 branches in the government, a legislative branch with 300 parliament members, an executive branch with president and vice president, and a judicial branch with judges that would be appointed by the parliament based on the Constitution. We are proposing to have 300 parliament members representing 300 districts. Each district will be about 47,000 people. Some of the districts will be exclusively Palestinian population. Some of the districts will be exclusively Israeli population, but many districts will be mixed districts, meaning Palestinians and Israelis living together. 300 parliament members will be elected by the people of Israel and Palestine. Obviously, in a Palestinian district, a Palestinian parliament members will be elected. Obviously, in an Israeli district, a Israeli parliament member will be elected. But in mixed districts, meaning where Palestinians and Israelis live together, a Palestinian could vote for an Israeli could vote for a Palestinian. At the end of the day, we will have, meaning after the election is over, we will have 300 parliament members. Some of them will be Palestinians and some will be Israelis. In order to assure fairness and equality, the Constitution provides that in order for them to pass legislation, you would need 55% of the Palestinian parliament members and 55% of the Israeli parliament members voting in favor of the same legislation. And if the legislation violates the sovereignty of Israel or Palestine, then the Israeli and the Palestinian government, both governments, will have a veto power over the legislation. If they vetoed the legislation, if any one of them vetoed the legislation will be nullified. We believe that this would create equality. It would create a path to peace and prosperity. And that's really the only vision for Israel and Palestine, to live in peace and to live together as equal. I personally believe that the Israeli government has failed to give peace to the whole area. It failed in its main goal, which is to give peace and security to the Jewish people. And in addition to that, it failed to give peace and security to the Palestinian people. In my opinion, the Israeli government is not a legitimate government in Israel, Palestine. It's not democratically elected in the area of Israel, Palestine, because it is it excludes the Palestinians from voting in the election. So when you control people, but you exclude them from voting, you lose your legitimacy. That's why I think that the Israeli government is not a legitimate government in the area of Israel, Palestine. I also do not believe that there is a Palestinian legitimate government in the area of Israel, Palestine, because the Palestinian government, current government, have not been elected by the Palestinian people or the Israeli people. It makes perfect sense to have a legitimate government for the entire area of Israel, Palestine, that would be elected by the entire population. Now, it doesn't mean that the entire population will elect that government. It only means that the entire population will be given the opportunity to vote. Equal opportunity. It would be up to the people themselves to decide whether or not to vote. In most democracies in the world, legitimate democracies, the entire population is given the right to vote. It's up to the population to decide whether they want to vote. But the people must be given the right to vote. And in Israel, Palestine, the people are not given the right to vote. Therefore, the Israeli government is not a legitimate government in that area. So you can stop me at any time, raise your hand, and voice your skepticism and your questions. This is the time to do so. I'm going to give you some areas where you can focus about, for example, is secular democracy. I forgot to mention that under the Constitution, the federal government will be secular. It will not be able to pass legislation that advances one religion or any religion. The laws that it must pass will have to be secular laws. We are not proposing the dismantling of the Israeli or the Palestinian governments. They could pass their own laws. We are not proposing that the federal government will be over and above the Israeli or the Palestinian government, because although personally I think it should have been that way, it's not going to be realistic because of the tremendous nationalistic feeling by the Israelis and the Palestinians, mostly by the Israelis, who will reject that idea. But they are more likely to accept the federal government if it gives a veto power to the Israeli and the Palestinian governments. They may not be willing to accept a federal government, but they will have no excuse to reject it. We are not proposing that and by the way, feel free to raise your questions at any time and to stop me. I am just going to go on and explain about the federal government that we are proposing. I have many points to make, but if I trigger anything in your mind, then raise your hand and ask the question, and I will stop my narration or my lecture, and I will let you ask your question. So one question that comes up again and again for me is this area of Israel Palestine is religion is so strong in that area. Would it be possible for a federal secular government to be created? In my opinion, not only would it be possible, but it is the only way to have a common federal government. Now, both Jews, Muslims, Christians, whatever religion, whenever the opportunity is given to them to vote for a democracy, in a democracy, they vote regardless of whether the people that are running the election are of the same religion that they are. In other words, both Christian, Muslim, and Jews participate traditionally in a democracy as long as they feel that it gives them equality. And then some people who, mostly on the Israeli side, who object to this idea, they would not, they understand that the idea for a democracy is a good idea, but I get a lot of rejection from the Israeli side telling me that the Palestinian or that Islam reject would not allow them to vote in for a secular democracy. That idea is proven, that argument is proven to be totally false. There are 2 million Arab Israelis living in Israel. Not only do they participate in the Israeli democracy, they participate in a Jewish democracy. As long as they feel they have some say, they participate. Not only do they participate, they also run for election in a Jewish democracy. So they will, in my opinion, they are very likely to participate in a secular democracy for the entire area. The same with Jews. Jews in Israel, even religious Orthodox Jews, are willing to and participating in a secular for a secular government. So I do not believe that Palestinians or Israelis will not participate in the election because of religious reasons. Now, I'm also asked, what is the difference between what we are proposing, a federal government, and a one state? First of all, let me give you my personal opinion. And by the way, my personal feeling, my personal opinions are not expressed in the idea of a federal government. This is an area where I differ from the idea of a federal government. I think that one state is the best solution. One democratic, secular state, in my opinion, is the perfect solution or better solution in theory than what I'm also proposing is a federal government. The reason I think that a one state is better is because you don't have to deal with the Israeli government or the Palestinian government. You have one secular government for the entire area, a democracy, and everyone belongs to that democracy. It's a much better scenario than a federal government. However, we have to deal with reality. And the reality is that we have an Israeli government, very strong politically, economically, and militarily. We also have Palestinian governments, not as strong, but they exist. In order to have one state, you need to either dismantle those governments, which I think is very unlikely to happen, or merge these two governments together, which I think is also very unlikely to happen. So, given the reality, a federal government that would be on a totally different track, it's not going to be created by the Israeli government or the Palestinian government. In fact, they will be, in all likelihood, they're not going to be happy with the federal government. But what we are proposing is that the federal government will be on a separate and independent track from the Israeli or the Palestinian government. it will have its own bird eye view on the entire area, and it would have the responsibility to give peace to the people that elected it, meaning the people of Israel and Palestine. And peace is the only solution. At the end of the day, if it's going to be a year from now or 20 years from now or 100 years from now, we will have peace. You have 14 million people living there. Some are Palestinians, some are Israelis. There is no victory. We are speaking about human beings, civilians, fathers, mothers, grandparents, children, grandchildren. There is no victory. It's not a military conflict. It's not one army over another. Now, in order to have this federal government function properly, it has to have a constitution. We are proposing a constitution. You could read the constitution at ipconfederation.org. The constitution is in 3 languages: Arabic, Hebrew, and English. And the constitution sets up the ground rules, the vision, the limitations of the federal government. When we have ground rules, we know what the ground rules are, then it makes it easier to run a government, because no one side can take over another. By the way, this is one of the problems that Israel is having. It does not have a constitution. And because it does not have a constitution, the ground rules are not clear. And Israel does not have a constitution because it's a Jewish state. You cannot have a constitution for a Jewish state. Why? Because it would be inherently racist document. So if you want to have a democracy, and if you want to have a constitution for democracy, one of the things that the Constitution spells is equality, equal rights to everyone, due process, separation between government and religion. Well, Israel as a Jewish state cannot have equality, cannot have, because equality, you can't say, well, we are given equality to Jews only. When you spell out equality, then Palestinians would say, well, I demand my equality. I demand my land back. I demand to be treated equally under the law. Israel cannot have that. And if you separate between religion and government, then you do away with the idea of a Jewish state. So this is why Israel cannot have a constitution. By the way, Ben-Gurion, who was the first prime minister of Israel, the founder of Israel, the person who declared the establishment of the State of Israel on May 15, 1947. Was it 47 or 48? I'm sorry. He said that by October 1st, meaning within 3.5 months of his declaration, Israel will have a constitution. October 1st came and gone, and Israel does not have a constitution. And Israel does not have a constitution today, 77 years later. because they realize that a constitution is fundamentally in opposition to the idea of a Jewish state. So they just ignore that idea. And because Israel does not have a constitution, it has its internal problems that you see that have been exhibited in the last 5 to 6 years with Israelis demonstrating in the streets because they don't have the ground rules. There is no ground rules. So basically, anyone that is in the government is trying to take advantage of the fact that they are in the government and change the rules during their terms in the government. So that's why Israel is having internal problems, and those problems are not going to go away because they don't know the ground rules. You can't do any political structure without ground rules, and let alone in a country in which there is internal competition, huge internal competitions between different visions, and external competition between and external pressure from the surrounding countries, and on top of that, occupation and apartheid. So stop me at any time. I'm going to go on telling you about the federal government we are proposing. If you I saw a hand coming up and down, but Victor, if you want to ask your question, go ahead. Or you can raise your hand physically. I don't see everyone. I'll try to have a better view to see everyone. I'm not sure how to do that. Okay, let me see. Maybe I can have a better view. But raise, okay. Fumiko, go ahead, ask your question. So this is a session for you to ask questions, to challenge the idea of a federal government. And if you need clarification, I'll be happy to give you the clarifications. If you are skeptical, I'll be happy to listen to your skepticism and respond to it. All right. So I see no hands. I'll just go on. The only way to have a secular federal government is to have a constitution. And we have a constitution. You can read it at ipconfederation.org. We are not proposing what the federal government policy should be. We're not saying that the parliament members should decide how or whether the Palestinians will have the right of return. We are not proposing how or whether Jerusalem should be the capital of Palestine or Israel or mutual capital. We are not making any substantive policy recommendations. The federal government that we are proposing is Gail, I'll let you ask your question.
I am the husband of Gail. I am
hi.
Mustafa Kader. I am a Palestinian from the old city of Jerusalem originally.
Yeah, hi, Mustafa.
And I really agree with you in principle that a secular democratic state is a solution. And I see a confederacy as a step towards that. But, you know, for the skeptical people of a peace process, we should look at the history of Europe. Germany was unified with a German government that is strong in the West, and The East was very poor, and now we can see that it is a successful experience. And another experience that happened in Rwanda, a genocide was happening there, and yet now we have a solution. If there is a will, there is a way. And I really think the obstacle to our vision is not the Palestinian people or the Israeli people. It's the Zionist movement that enlisted the Jewish people to be the arm of imperialism in the area. I don't think Israel was created to service the Jewish people. It was created to service the imperialist interest in the area. If we, the Palestinians and the Israelis, just stop for a minute and think, whom are we servicing? Are we servicing our populations, or we are servicing the interest of the multinationals and the imperialist powers? Then your proposal would be a very genuine one, starting with the Confederacy and ending up with a secular democracy. And the very simple example for that, I was having a walk here in Utah, from all places, in the park, talking in Arabic to my cousin. And this Israeli old man followed us and asked me, how come we live in peace here and we cannot live in peace there? I told him the answer is very simple. We are equal under the law here. We are not equal under the law there. So for all our Israelis and for all our Palestinians, we are meant to be in that place. So we better find a way forward. We better find a way forward. In essence, I want to remind the Israelis that argue that the Palestinians have rejected every peace plan that was there. I want to remind them that King Hussein I, the grandfather of the present king, have accepted in his correspondence to house in his kingdom that was promised to him 1,200,000 Jewish people that fled the Christian European anti-Semitism, because we were not anti-Semites. We are Semites. And most probably we are the true Israelites. So if they want peace, they've got to abolish all the education of the Zionism and all the Islamophobia that they created, because we are not living in denial. It's an impossibility to move 5 million Jews out of the area or 6 million Jews out of the area. And at the same time, I want to tell Mr. Netanyahu to massacre 4 million Palestinians or expel them. It means expelling and kicking the can forward down the street. Thank you very much for listening.
You made excellent points. Looking at you, I cannot overcome my feeling that we look so much similar.
Look at your face in the mirror and look at my face in the mirror.
Yes. And so I don't really understand. You're Palestinian, I'm Israeli. My family, most of them are in Israel. I really don't understand why we need to be enemies. I just don't understand. And you made the right point. Someone else is pushing us to be enemies of each other.
Thank you.
If we walked in Utah, you and I, or in wherever, we would be friends. Okay? So why can't we be friends, like you said, in Israel Palestine? There are forces that are insisting that we should remain enemies. And the people in Israel, Palestine we ignore our own interest, and we let other people push us, or let companies, or let the weapon industry, or push us into continuation of this violence. But I think that the only way to make roads is to have a federal government that would give us legitimacy, would give us the power to represent what I call the rational people in Israel, Palestine, to represent us together as a unified group, to say enough is enough. We want to be responsible for our own lives, and then, you know, if those Israelis want to continue with the Israeli government, we can't really stop them. We can't block them, but we can create a competition for them, a parallel track, Palestinians and Israelis together.
You know, I really, you know, I agree with you on a lot of points. This is really a very important issue as well. You know, that we should be aware as Palestinians and as Israelis that a secular democracy in Israel Palestine is very much opposed by the Western powers, because we know as much we can, or we know for a fact, that democracy is contagious, and it would spill in every Arabic country around us if they see the successful experience that we are going to be the example for. And that is dangerous for the multinationals, because they cannot exploit the Arabic world the way they are doing it now.
Yeah.
Thank you very much again.
Yeah, thank you, Mustafa. All right, let's go to Shlomo. I'm also looking for people to challenge our idea, not to agree with it so much, but to challenge. And I'm looking for skeptics. Shlomo.
I hope Mustafa is still listening. In any case, of course, I agree with him on everything essentially. But there is a problem. Which
Shlomo,
is,
we don't see you. I don't see you anyway.
I know. My camera is not working, and I tried to. I left and zoomed again. I need to reboot my computer, but then it may take too long. I may do it after I talk. But anyway, so. Or maybe my camera is still simply dead. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, so the problem is Zionism. I mean, Zionism was supposed to save the Jews from anti-Semitism and to bring them to make a Jewish state where the Jews control their own fate. Now, Jewish state meaning that, in a way, admitting two things: A, that there is a Jewish people, that Judaism is not just a religion, is also kind of a nation. The Jews are a nation, which is very much debatable, in my opinion. And number two, that the idea was to settle somewhere, and it converged to the Middle East, unfortunately. And in fact, there were other alternatives. As you know, the history very quickly, there was essentially Argentina, and then there was Uganda, and maybe some other place. Yeah, there was some in Crimea. Anyway, it didn't work. And the only place where it's some kind of tracted, it was the Middle East, which served the empires. And here is right. It was, you know, convergence of interest. But the idea of a Jewish state, meaning that most Israelis are indoctrinated to the idea that there is only one solution for the Jews, and that is Jewish state, meaning that it is majority Jews, and that's it. Now, with the idea of the confederation, which of course, and with the one state, which I both agree, we dismantled the whole Zionism. and most Israelis will not accept it, and that's where what we are facing
Say that again?
with with Zionism. There is no Israel. But is the dismantling of Zionism, there is no Israel.
Are
And
you saying that the federal government will dismantle Zionism?
essentially, eventually, yes. That's because Zionism contradicts it. Zionism say, I want a majority of Jews, period. This is it. We want to self-control.
Could you
And
could you explain why a federal government in Israel, Palestine, under the formula that we are proposing, that the Israelis will continue to have their government, the Palestinians will continue to have their government. Why would a federal government dismantle Zionism?
because that's a notion. The Confederation is equality. It has in the basis, the base of it, and in the Constitution, the idea of equality, which I'm all for it personally. But equality means that you may have soon majority of Palestinians, and that means that it will become Palestine essentially, and that's the Israelis absolutely cannot tolerate.
How would the federal government increase the population of the Palestinians?
Well, once there is equality, Palestinians will come back from many places where they were kicked out.
But wait, let me stop you there, please. Because under the formula that we are proposing, you would need 55% of the Israelis to vote yes. You will also give a veto power to the Israeli government. So how would, under that formula, why would the Israelis allow the increase of the Palestinian population in that area?
They won't. They won't allow. They won't allow the Confederation. They absolutely will be against it.
Okay, so your argument is that they will. Your argument is not that the federal government will increase the number of the Palestinians. Your argument is that the Israeli government will not allow the creation of a federal government.
Number one, and if they do allow it, in a way they admit to equality. Once they admit to equality, that means there will be the right of, there will be many things going on. One of them will be the right of return, which I'm for it.
But there will, but in all likelihood, there will be a partial right of return, and the partial right of return would mean compromise by the Israelis and the Palestinians.
The Israelis are now have the power, so they would not compromise. The Israelis are not going to compromise on anything, and as you know, and especially now, and that's another issue that I have in mind all the time, is what we see now is not only apartheid, we see genocide, and it is every day going on for 560 days, and it's ongoing. And the question is, who is Israel anymore? What is Israel? Israel is falling apart inside. And so right now, your idea, which I love, it's a dream, you know. Okay, but let's leave it aside and let's think rationally now. So Israel will never admit to anything like what we offer, even a hint of equality. And that's a problem that of course, that Zionism has. Many good Israelis would love equality, would love to see themselves as democratic, equal, and everything. But the reality is that if they admit to equality, here comes the Zionism. So it's a contradiction.
Okay,
that's what
you are saying, Shlomo, in my opinion, is that peace is against Zionism, that Zionism opposes to peace, that Zionism needs the conflict in order to continue to exist as
Not,
as an ideology?
not necessarily. I mean, okay, so there were the two-state solution. Let's go for a moment to two-state solution. So that's most Israelis actually wanted it. The government didn't, but the Israelis wanted it. And then, and let us assume that there is a two-state solution. We have two states. We can live without war, right? It's a peace between Palestine and Israel, and there is no war. So it's not against peace necessarily if the two-state solution exists. Now it does not exist, of course.
Yeah,
and
but the two-state solution has failed for 70, at least 77 years.
absolute, no, yeah.
So, I mean, all right.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that yeah, if essentially it is not that Zionism is against peace. Zionism is against equality in one state, and that's a problem. That's a huge problem, and that's what the source of all the evil.
That's a huge. Why is it a huge problem? I don't understand.
Because the moment you tell the Palestinians you're not equal, you can be on you as long as you live with us, you are under us. We don't want you to be a majority. Period. We are the majority because it's a Jewish state.
Okay, so why is the federal government that we are proposing that the Israelis will continue to have their government? If you're Israeli, you are under the Israeli government. You will continue to have a Palestinian government. If you're a Palestinian, you have a Palestinian government, but a federal government for both people together. What is wrong with that formula?
Practically what will happen is that you will have so many Israelis under the Israeli, and then you have Palestinian. Okay, so what about movement between? What about movement of people in between? What about control of this and that? I don't see in my best dreams Israeli government, not just the fascistic Nazi government that we have now, but any government before it that would agree to this.
All right. Why did the state of California, with 40 million people, agree to have a federal government with the state of Wyoming with 600,000 people?
Because there is no racist problem. We have a racist problem. We have to face it. We have a racist problem because the Jews wanted a Jewish state. That's Californian didn't say, we want a Californian state. I know, and everyone has a stamp of California on his back. No, it's a different.
But we have a federal government with 50 states. Some of the states are more powerful than others. By far, they have greater territory by far. But yet we found a formula to satisfy everyone, a win-win situation. Why is this not possible in Israel and Palestine?
Okay. But people from Wyoming or from other places can move to California without any problem and establish there, and vice versa, of course. Okay. If you have this California situation in the Middle East, then you have people from Palestine or would move to Israel as in big numbers, and Israelis will start leaving. So you will have the population.
We are not proposing a U.S. federal system. We are proposing a different federal system. I am just talking about the principle that one powerful entity understand that in order to move on with its existence, it needs to create a system of cooperation. We are proposing a system of cooperation, not identical to the American system, but a system of cooperation between the Palestinians and the Israelis in order to stop this fighting and to stop the violence.
Yeah. The only way to look at it in a peaceful way would be the two-state solution, which doesn't exist anymore. But theoretically, it was a solution, not a great solution, but it was a solution in which Israel will still maintain the majority of Jews, and the West Bank and Gaza will be majority of
But the
Palestinians.
federal government will be able to propose the two-state solution.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, it would be more likely to propose it and more successful in proposing it, because this two-state solution will be, if they decide, it will be proposed by people who are elected, who represent a district, not by people who do not have a legitimate government, who are really controlling the area by force.
Yeah. Okay. So go ahead with the two-state solution as kind of a frame to frame the confederation in such a way that will be more acceptable to Israelis. I think that will be the optimal way to go.
And why is it that we have to satisfy the notion that Israelis have to be, as a whole, have to be satisfied, that we have to think about their, as a group, and their ideology, and we cannot think of them as individuals? In other words, why is it that we have to accept the Israelis as a monolithic society?
You're right. I'm all with you. However, the Israelis are indoctrinated monolithically to believe that there is no other solution for the Jewish problem, so to speak, except for having a Jewish state, meaning the majority of Jews. I know it is an absurd if you think about it, but that's how it is monolithic in a way. The Zionism is monolithic, and that's the problem we are facing.
Yeah, but there is another problem that Israelis are facing, is that they deep down know that, first of all, they are not really practicing Judaism. 80% of them do not practice Judaism. And also, the Jewish state is failing them in terms of giving them security. So are you saying that if the federal government becomes if there is more awareness of it, that they will outright reject this idea, all of them, or as a whole, as a monolithic society, or would there be cracks in that monolithic society?
There are always cracks, but what happened with the Judaism that became Zionism? The Zionists created a new religion called Zionism. Zionism is like a religion by itself, and that's the problem.
No.
All right. Una.
Can I speak? Do you hear me now?
No, Una is next, and then you speak. Avigdor.
Okay.
I'm sorry, and then John, and then Avigdor. Una, go ahead.
Okay.
Hi, John. Nice to talk to you again.
Hi.
I'm not thinking aloud. Am I allowed to think aloud? At the moment, I love the ideas. Fantastic. But as we are talking, Israel is still murdering Palestinians. How do you think we are going to be able to move on? I've lost so many of my friends in Palestine. And I mean, I wouldn't like to be Palestinian because I will be very angry with Israel, more than angry. Therefore, how do you want to move on, considering, as we're talking now, I'm having my lovely wine, my beautiful house, and people are being murdered, and no one is saying anything about it. So, do you have something to help me about?
All right. Very good question. First of all, if we had a federal government 2 years ago, the likelihood that we would have had October 7 was much, much lower, because there would have been Palestinian parliament members in Gaza. Probably Gaza would have had at least 45 or 50 parliament members. there would have been engagement between the Palestinian and the Israeli parliament members. They would have found a solution for Gaza and Israel, such as the creation of a joint economic zone, and the peaceful relations would have started right away between Palestinians and Israelis. There would have been an engagement between Palestinians and Israelis. Now, October 7 made things worse, but it's not hopeless. October 7 makes things more necessary to resolve the issue. And if we have 50 parliament members in Gaza, in our federal government, we would have had an alternative to the Hamas government. We would have had another probably 100 Palestinian parliament members in the rest of the area. There would have been another probably 150 Israeli parliament members. They would have had a completely different parallel track to deal with all the issues. Right now, the issues are being dealt with two failed governments, the Israeli government and the Hamas government. These are two military governments that believe in solving issues by with violence. If we had a federal parliament members, there would have been a completely different track to resolve the issues.
Yeah, but Joseph, one thing without disrespect to you, as far as I'm concerned, Hamas are freedom fighters. You know, they had no choice but fighting back. A country who has been invaded has the right to defend itself. As far as I'm concerned, Hamas are freedom fighters. Like
okay, I am not arguing with your characterization of Hamas. I am looking at the bottom line results. And the bottom line results that Hamas and Israel have given to the people in Israel, Palestine are not good. Not good.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. But Israel had all the right. They didn't care. They just kill, genocide. Hamas had the choice. They had to defend themselves. And that is, I mean, I love the idea. I really love the idea.
Under the constellation of this relationship between Israel and Hamas, this is the results you get, okay? We want a different constellation, different relationship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go to John. John Suter.
Thank you for this opportunity. I think that the IPC federalism is a good goal, but I think we need to work on the intermediate steps of getting there. And I think one of the fears of the Zionists and the Jews who live in Israel is that they will become a minority and they will lose control of the government. And I think the proposal that you're making addresses that to some extent. But in order to get there, it seems that we really need some intermediate steps. And I had written about this in the past. I think maybe having 10 or 20 regions throughout Israel and having an administrator in each region who has a lot of power, but that administrator can be removed from their position by maybe 80% of the minority, any minority, or 60% of the general vote in that region. This would have to be enforced by a third party, maybe United Nations or some other third party. But I think we need to really think about the steps needed to get there. I do some research in small group communications, and I'm going to leave my contact information in the chat. So if anybody wants to pursue these ideas further, we can do that. Thank you.
Yeah, please do. I know you contacted me about those games that you sponsor. I like I said, you can put your name and contact information, and people can contact you to participate in it. However, I disagree with you that the federal government does not create babies. The majority of either Palestinians or Israelis in the future will be an eventuality, and I'm not sure which way it will be, because right now the population on the Jewish side is much greater than the Palestinian side, because of the Orthodox Jews having a lot more children than the average Palestinian. But the population shift will happen regardless if there is a federal government in Israel, Palestine. The federal government realistically does not pose a population risk to either side. Nevertheless, the Constitution that we sponsor takes care of that issue. So if in 100 years you will have more Palestinians or more Israelis in the parliament, it wouldn't really make a difference. So let's say in 100 years we have 200 of one nationality and 100 of another nationality, you will still need 55% of the 200 and 55% of the 100. That ensures stability, it ensures equality for a long time to come.
I would agree that that's the general goal, but I'm not sure that we know how to get there. We have a river to cross, and we need to think about how to move step by step to get to that goal.
What is the river?
Well, the river is people in power are not listening to people like you and me.
Well,
we need to think about issues of power.
The federal government that we are proposing is a parallel system. It's not about the people in power. The people in power may be the river, but you don't need to cross that river. You can get to your destination without crossing that river. That's the whole idea of what we are proposing. A federal government that will be elected directly by the people of Israel and Palestine, independently of the people in power, independently of the Israeli or the Palestinian governments.
Are we making our arguments to people and politicians who have decision-making power? I mean, we're having a parallel discussion right now, but how do we move this into the mainstream?
Again, we are not making an argument to the politicians in power, because we are proposing an independent, separate track from the people in power. The people in power are the problem. They are not the solution. These are not the people we need to convince. These are people we need to avoid.
Yeah, I agree. But how do we get there?
Oh, we need to create awareness. Once we have an awareness, then we can create a platform for an election, and we can we need to create awareness in Israel, Palestine, that there is a parallel track for them to vote upon that would not remove one hair from their security, from their stability, a federal government that would be elected independently of their own government. All right, let's go to Samir. Oh, I'm sorry, Avigdor.
Okay, thank you. I love your idea, but I'm asking how can we, in order to set up, at least start your federation, we need several millions people on each side to agree and participate. Otherwise, we have now 36 people that know about it. Maybe 3,600. I don't know, but but not millions. And until we have several millions, we cannot do anything. It's just utopic.
Well,
I think I want to repeat to go back a little bit to what Shlomo said, and your idea as you returned it. I don't believe in the guy, the Arabic person who talked. Sorry for not remember his name, and I don't see it now. I love to speak with him a lot more. That the Jews didn't have a state ever. The Palestinian, the same way, didn't have a state ever until, and they didn't want to have a state. There was an offer in 1947 for two states, the Jewish state and the Arabic state. The Arabic state didn't want a state. Now, the Jewish state, the Jews who came over, the Zionists, I was born in Israel. My parents were the immigrants. And at that time, never mind, because Jews felt in Europe, the Zionism started in Europe because they promised Germany and France and England and other Eastern Europe proposed Jewish to be part of the state, and so. But then there was Kishinev riots in 1903 or something like that, and then the Second World War and the whole Holocaust, and that is the reason that Jews doesn't want to be even close to be ruled by other people. We want to be independent. Now, that's my explanation. That's not my solution. Your solution is much better. I agree. But in order to get to your solution, we need to start now and work for 50 years, which I won't be there, and you either, to be able to be like, just a second, to be able to have the two people believe in each other, believe each other. I believe the Arabic guy that was speaking before, and I believe that if I will talk with him, he will believe me so also. But that's not enough. The majority, especially after the October 7, what I see, my friends, my people that I work with, don't believe the Arabic. None of them. That's kind of make me suffer. That they say that all the Arabs are the same, which I don't think so. I think there's nothing like that. But that's what the people in Israel feel now. And they are revenging what they have done in Gaza. It's revenge, which I don't believe in it either. But that's the story. That's my speech for now.
Let me respond to your 2 points. First of all, we don't need 100 years. We don't need, at this time, millions of Israelis and Palestinians to agree with it. The difference between the federal government being created and now is $100 million. If we are able to have $100 million, we could have a date certain for an election, meaning it will take place, let's say, Today is April 27, 2025, to have the election on April 27, 2026. At that time, Palestinians and Israelis could run and offer their candidacy to run for parliament and for president, and to have a platform for the election to take place online, meaning people can use their telephone, they can use their computers, their friends' computers, and their friends' telephone, and the election will take 3 months. Now, you mentioned that Israelis and Palestinians, you mentioned that Israelis do not trust Palestinians.
And the vice versa.
And vice versa. I agree. But this is not a system of trust. In fact, you don't really need a trust. It's better not to have trust, because you create a system of transparency. That's what we are proposing, a system based on the Constitution with transparency, that everyone knows the rules of the games, and the people who choose to play in the game, meaning the parliament members, will accept the Constitution, regardless of whether they trust each other or not, and then will pass legislation that would be accepted to both sides based on the rules of the games. And then the trust will be built incrementally in the future. It's not going to be a snap and you have trust. That's not going to happen. You're going to have incremental trust based on equal relations between Palestinians and Israelis, and that would create. It would also demolish the propaganda that Palestinians and Israelis have against each other, because they are dealing with stereotypical ideas of each other. They're not really engaged with each other based on equality. They are engaged with each other. They're not engaged with each other. They see each other as enemies. So that's my response to your skepticism.
Okay.
All right, let's go to Samir.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Samir.
Hi, Joseph. Hi, how are you? Everything is okay? All right. Okay, I just wanted to, again, I mean, it seems like, I mean, everything is forgotten about the whole issue, and now we start with October 7, as if October 7 just came out of nowhere. Well, I just want to remind, I mean, the Israeli who just spoke, that the problem did not start on October 7. It started on...
He didn't say it started on October 7.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
Or everything changed because of October 7. So, but actually, if the issue was addressed correctly since 1948, then we would not have arrived to genocide. That's what we're talking about, genocide of Palestinians. And he, I mean, kept saying that Arabic. What Arabic? I mean, Palestinians. And the name is Palestine. And Palestine, it's been there for thousands of years. That's what it is. Israel is just in 1948 was created on the expense of the Palestinian and caused the Nakba catastrophe for the Palestinians, and more than 750,000 Palestinians were expelled from their land, and the Zionists took over and called it Israel, and they thought that's all theirs. I mean, for the Israelis, just to remember that. And also to remember, I mean, in the last 77 years, a lot of things happened. A lot of attempts for peace tried by the Arabs and by the Palestinians and by the PLO. And the Israelis failed to do it.
All right.
starting, I mean,
Well,
from
do you have a
1948.
question, Samir?
Yeah. No, I don't have a question. I just want to make my comment that to just say that in a way that the Israelis themselves, they have like short memories. They don't remember that they already had a democracy and they lived with the Palestinians in one democratic state. It seems like, I mean, they don't remember it. That happened in the 60s and before 1967, when the Israelis, after 18 years of military rule in Palestine, they ended the military rule and they gave equal rights and equal votes to the Palestinians, and they created what they call now proper Israel proper, but actually it is the one state democratic Palestinian state. So in a way, I mean, the concept of one state, one secular democratic state, or one federal state, this is nothing new. It's already been done by the Israel. I mean, it is like, I mean, the Israelis did something, and then after 1967, they forget what they have done, and they get lost, and they didn't know what to do. And now, I mean, after all of this time, we're talking about one state solution, and it looks like to them, oh, no, we don't want one state. Well, we already had the damn thing. It is, you failed to copy yourself. That's what it is. I mean, the Israelis, if they were smart, but they were not smart. I mean, if they were smart, their leaders were smart enough, they should have figured that out. Either, I mean, you occupied the West Bank, Gaza, and the East Jerusalem in 1967. Okay, you have two ways. The whole world, I mean, the whole world actually, United Nations Security Council came with the resolution 242 and for the Israelis to withdraw and let the Palestinians have their own state. And that's one solution. I mean, either if at that time Israel, okay, we want to do that, then withdraw and let the Palestinians have their own independent state alongside Israel. And that would have been fine. Or if they thought they didn't want that, okay, they want one state, you just annex the West Bank and Gaza Strip and East Jerusalem and give them equal rights with its population. Give them equal rights and equal votes, and that will be the end of the story, end of the conflict. And the damn stupid Israelis, stupid leaders, they did not figure that out until today. And it's been like 58 years of occupation and wars and killing, and we arrived to genocide. I mean, what's the matter with the Israelis? I mean, to tell me, I am a Palestinian, I am an Arab, that I don't know the issue? No, I know the issue. And I am smart enough to know what's wrong. But what's wrong is with the Israelis, with the whole society of Israelis, not just the leaders, the whole society. It is like they lost their memories. They don't know what to do. I mean, you tell them one state, oh, what's one state? No, we don't want state. Two state, no, we don't want two state. What's the matter with you? I mean, if you don't want state, you don't want one state, what the hell do you want? I mean, if you don't want anything, that means you don't belong to the land. The land does not belong to you. Because you are living, I mean, right now in a land, historic Palestine, where 14 million people living on it, 7 million Palestinians and 7 million Israeli Jews. Okay, if they have one state, one democracy, there is no minority and majority. It will be 50-50, and it will be a perfect democracy. It would be even better than United States of America. 50-50, it will be equally. That means you elect a parliament will be 50-50. And then you will elect, doesn't matter whether Palestinian or an Israeli Jew will become president or prime minister or whatever. It is everything 50-50. Even, I mean, the issue of refugees, you can discuss it later. So to implement one secular democratic state, it's very easy. No negotiations, no transfer of anybody. You just merge together and you just copy yourself prior 1967 and you're fine. And everybody have the right to vote, and that's it. And you can transfer to real democracy where, I mean, everybody is equal and they will elect whosoever they want, and at the same time they can change the laws.
Do Hamas believe with what you say? Do Hamas believe with what you say?
Forget Hamas. Hamas, I mean, does not represent the whole Palestinians. Hamas is not
But they
created
kill
by
Jews all
the
the time.
Palestinians. Hamas is created by Israel.
All right.
No. Israel created Hamas. I mean, that's a fact.
Let's go to
I mean, no, but
Samir.
Yeah. Just let me say that Hamas was created in the late 80s after the first Intifada, and the reason that Hamas progress and came along all the way because Israel supported Hamas because to counter the PLO at the time, because Israel didn't want to acknowledge the PLO.
I agree with you. So what?
Yes.
Hamas
So
agreed.
what?
That is
Now
my
it is in the hands of Israel.
Avigdor,
Israel
but that
supposed
is my
to
people.
end the story.
Avigdor, Hamas agreed.
What is your
Hamas
people?
agreed.
Your people are damn stupid. That's why. They don't
All right.
know the right solution.
That's
why.
not.
All right.
let's-
I believe I
Thank you.
agree with you 100%.
Okay.
But let's not make a
All
solution.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Samir.
Well, that is the solution. The solution is easy. One
Okay.
secular democratic state.
You
Just
did it.
copy yourself.
Okay. Let's go to Libby.
Thank you.
Ooh,
Libby.
I'm worn out just from listening to that. I want to bring up something slightly different that I think is an important thing for us to be thinking about. And that is a couple of things that seem very real to me are, number one, that all war is obsolete. And by obsolete, I mean it does not work. Doesn't mean it's gone. Clearly, it's not gone. There's wars going on everywhere. But it doesn't solve the issues. And that is so clear right now when you think about what's going to continue on after there's a possible ceasefire that's going to last, about the seeds that have been planted through the pain and suffering and loss that is going to carry us forward into generations ahead, because we do not understand that war is obsolete and never solves a problem permanently. So the thing that we have to be thinking about and understanding as human beings, in my opinion, is that we are all in this together. And that means that our whole living system, our planet right now, is being destroyed by the choices that we humans are making and how we are living. We are abusing the planet. We're using up resources. We're killing each other over resources. We're changing weather patterns. Everything. We have to understand that our survival depends on our cooperation. And I don't mean just between Palestinians and Jews. I mean all humans. We humans have to get hold of the fact that our survival is being threatened by the choices we are making right now, today. So to help us overcome the war in Gaza and Israel, to help us overcome the wars in other places around the planet, we have to address the information and we have to acknowledge that we are all totally interdependent and interconnected, and that the choices we make every day as human beings don't just make a result in my life. Everything I do plays on your lives as well. I know it's hard to get hold of that reality, but it's the truth. And we can see the way It's playing out in just it's so obvious in Israel and Palestine and in Gaza, where we are destroying the living system and we're destroying each other. Our challenge is to think totally new. We have to understand that all of life is interconnected, interdependent, and interrelated, and every choice we make is an important choice to continuing life. And as an elder, I'm saying I feel totally responsible for future generations. What are we leaving to our grandchildren? We are leaving hell on earth. We have got to get it together and overcome our feelings of superiority, and it doesn't matter what we do. We have got to think new, and we have to inspire each other to think totally outside the box. We're not going to end the war unless we understand that all of life is interrelated, interconnected, and interdependent, and I need you and you need me. We're all in it together.
Very well said. Thank you. I just want to have like a commercial break, for lack of better term. We are going to have a small conference in Yafo on May 12th at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. I don't recall. If you live in that area, I would appreciate it if you could come in. Coffee and cake will be served. Let's go to.
Are you going to be there?
I am going to be there. Yes, yes, I'm going to be presenting there, and I'm also going to be in Haifa and Jerusalem.
So you're going to travel then soon?
Yeah, I'm leaving on May 6th. I'm sorry, I'll be arriving on May 7th.
Already, and you are going to do that on the 12th, you said?
Yes, on the 12th. On the 12th.
In Yaffa. In Yaffa.
In Yaffa,
okay.
Yes.
Joseph, how come you're allowed to go there and I'm not allowed to go there?
Because I am privileged. I'm Jewish and I'm privileged, and so that's.
But do I count? I'm half Jewish, but I'm totally banned by Israel government because I'm an activist.
And by the way, I'm not sure I will be allowed to do that. We'll see what happens to me when I get to.
Good luck, darling. Good luck. I will think of you. Good luck.
Yeah.
No. I tell you what they do. They wait to the last minute and they will cancel it.
No. They will send him to Sde Teiman.
I've been arrested and I went into little jail for 24 hours.
No, that's what they used to do in Syria under Assad. When they don't like, the opposition or anybody to have conference, okay, they wait to the last minute and then the mukhabarat comes and say, cancelled.
Oh. All right, well,
Good luck, Joe. Good luck, Joe. I think of you.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Gail Bowling. Gail?
Yeah, hi. I just want to respond to our friend, the Israeli guy. First on 1948, he says that we refused, to build a state. The first issue is that the mandate was on Palestine and it was not on Israel. So Israel is, Palestine have existed. He cannot deny the existence of Palestine. And he claims that we didn't want a Palestinian state. In 1952, the Mufti was exiled to Lebanon, and the Jordanian government, with the pressure of the British government, which is an anti-Semite government, by the way, and still not till now they are anti-Semites anyway.
That's right.
Forced Jordan to annex Palestine, and you were not allowed to identify as a Palestinian. You've got to identify as a Jordanian. Now, Israel says it's not our problem that the Jordanians imposed this on you. But I will tell you, they are part of that process. They were part of that process. And, you know, in the 1930s, we were calling for a secular democratic state in Palestine. And if we go to the charter of the PLO, it was until 1973 calling for a secular democratic state in Palestine. But the rhetoric is in the hands of the Israelis. And you cannot blame us, the Palestinians, you know, for the education of the Israelis. You know, the Zionist movement have managed to create a monster of the Islam and of the Palestinians. You know, not only in the minds of the Israelis, but in the minds of the world. And with the help of the fundamentalist Christianity, they were very successful. Dehumanizing us did not serve the Israeli security, that's for sure. And also, you know, when they talk about Hamas, I really do not agree that Israel created Hamas. You know, Hamas is part of the population. It's an oppressed population, and most of the people in Gaza, you know, were deported from the belt of Gaza. They were the sons and the grandsons. They look through the fences and they would see their grandparents' lands. And those people are part of an occupied people, and they have the right by all means to defend themselves and to aspire for their rights by all means possible under international law. So we cannot blame it on Hamas. You know, this was an argument a lot of Israelis have. Oh, but it is the Netanyahu and Trump. It is Hamas. It is the extremists. I tell them it's not the extremists, because this country, Israel, was founded by a socialist movement called the Labor Government, headed by Ben-Gurion. In the first 2 years of creating that country, they demolished 500 villages in Palestine the same way they are doing now. So we cannot say there is light Zionism and heavy Zionism, as much as we cannot say light fascism and heavy fascism, or light Nazism and heavy Nazism. This is the problem with the Israeli education system. They brainwashed the Jewish people into having an enemy that did not exist, especially in our nook of the world. We were not anti-Jewish. We were not anti-anybody. Before the British colonized us, 8% of us were Jews, 27% of us were Christians, and the rest were Muslims and others. And when this country, America, that is bragging about exporting democracy, was under segregation until the Second World War, they sent their soldiers segregated to the war. We were not segregated. We were marrying from each other. We were living together, and we were not separated. You walk down the street in Jerusalem, you couldn't tell who's Jewish, who's Christian,
Right.
and who's Muslim.
Right.
And here, after 40 years, she is a daughter of a minister, a Christian minister. I am a daughter of a religious Muslim. And we've been married for 40 years. We can see humanity in each other because we were educated to see the others as humans.
Very well said.
I'm sorry to give him a lecture, but you know, he didn't leave me a chance.
Well, very, very well said. I also want to add to that. You know, there are two things that I would like to add. First of all, we conveniently forget that 750,000 Palestinians were expelled to create a Jewish state. So, Samir, I do not agree with you that Israel was a one state ever. It was a Jewish state because it expelled 750,000 Palestinians and put them outside the borders of Israel, including in Gaza. And the imposition of giving a choice of two states is exactly what was said earlier by Mustafa, that the West is imposing, not even imposing their value, is imposing racism on the people of Israel and Palestine to confirm the idea that Jews and Muslims cannot live together in peace. That is a racist idea, and giving the choice of two states, which they themselves support secular democratic state, but it is completely looking down upon the people of Israel and Palestine to say, well, you need to be separate from each other because we accept Zionist racism against Palestinians. That's totally false choice. So I'm not sure I expressed myself correctly as I wanted to on that point, but I think that more or less you understood what I was saying. Let's go to Charles. And then from
I wanted to just point out that the Jewish state as a concept, it was all along, but in reality, it is not, because until today in Israel proper, there is 20% of the population are Palestinians. So to say that it is a Jewish state, it doesn't mean anything.
I agree.
And later on, if there is one secular democratic state for all Palestine, definitely that Jewish state doesn't mean anything, because it will be like 50% and 50%, and it doesn't mean. So really, in 2019, when the Israeli decided to sign it into law, the Jewish state into the law, later on, it can be also signed out into the law, and Jewish state doesn't mean anything, because in reality it is not there.
It's a fictional idea.
It's a fictional idea.
Yeah.
Or a myth. You can call it a myth.
It's a fictional idea. Let's go to Charles. Hi, Charles.
Hi, hi everybody. I'd really like to salute what everybody's saying today, and especially Libby. And I don't think that these issues are going to be resolved until, as somebody else put it, we are able to prioritize our humanity. As long as we have an identity, where do you start the history? Okay, 5,000 years ago, 1890s, 1948, you name it, with justification. Who owns the land? Who belongs to the land? Who controls the land? Well, I got news for you. Sooner or later, everybody dies. The land is never yours. Until you understand that, we're all here together as people. If you prioritize an identity above your humanity, there will always be conflict. So that's all I wanted to say.
May I answer to Charles? May I talk to you, Charles?
Sorry?
What you said, Charles, what you said is really great. But as we know, we are lucky. I have a land. I'm French, and my land is French. And if you took that away from me, I would be very upset. I know what you mean. We all die. We're born with nothing and die with nothing. But a land is very important, especially for the Palestinian. I have the key in my thing for Palestine. And to them, it's very important. You're lucky, Charles. You have a land. What is your land?
I don't have any land.
Not at all. Where do you live?
I live in an apartment in Los Angeles.
I know, but I mean, which country? The land means a country.
I live in the United States.
Therefore, to you, US must be your land.
No, it's not my land.
The land of your forefather, maybe?
No, no,
Okay.
not at all. My forefathers came here from Europe. Okay.
Okay.
They
Okay.
profited from the ethnic cleansing
I know
that took
Indians.
place over a few centuries before they got here. All
I
right?
know what you're talking about. I really
But
call
I don't understand. Do you have a problem with what I said?
No. It's great. But I mean, for Palestinians, I know them. I've been with them for 50 years, and I do understand they want the land back. End of.
I
know it's hard
understand
for
that.
you.
I understand that.
Okay.
But what people need is they need to
Their rights,
understand their equality, their rights. Okay.
their rights, equal rights.
If they put an identity above that, I don't care whether it's German, Palestinian, Jewish, I don't care. It doesn't matter. If they put an identity above their humanity,
Okay.
they will never be able to recognize the humanity in another person and know how to share. They will always be trying to fulfill that empty hole inside themselves where they have created by placing an identity above their true self.
Mhm.
If they're not in contact with their true self, there's always this emptiness. And
I
they will
totally agree.
constantly be trying to fill it from
That's right.
action in the
The
world.
land for all, the land for all, and what's needed, rights, equal rights. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what he's saying is that he put the humanity above everything, which is exactly right.
But not even humanity, because we have this anthropomorphic view of ourselves. When we separate from our true identity, which is beyond our body, humanity, we're talking about our bodies. Our true identity is beyond our body. We are part of an infinite experience. And if we don't experience that as our true self, as the man said, know thyself, right?
Credit to you. I respect. I totally respect.
Then we'll constantly, as we look into the world through our mind, we'll be creating grids and we'll be trying to fulfill ourselves in the world for the lack of that feeling of connection inside of ourselves. That's the only thing that's going to solve this, in my opinion.
Number one, yes. I mean, that's the basis for everything else.
Let's go to Fumiko. Fumiko, did you want to participate?
Yep. Okay. And
Hi.
Hi. Okay. I just agree with what Shlomo have said. Okay. The bottom line is kind of idea of the Zionism. Okay. And the Israel is actually established under the and concept of Zionism, and so that's why that means already racist, and so they have already in a way sneakingly they just hid the true desire in the future, but they just pretend to treat Arabs later Palestinian equally. And so I just look at the textbook, written by the Israeli government, and then Arabs in Israel, are treated very equally, and so things like that. So just that was a 1950, I'm sorry, in the 1967 or something like this, a little bit before. And then so just look at the data, and among Arabs in other countries, Israeli Arabs, and just are treated very nicely, better, higher, living standard, things like that. And so, but the bottom line is, as I said, and so just and yeah, I just before actually, so I learned a lot about what you said, and so also other blogs, recommended, and so just I read about it, and so I admire the Jewish people, and then so that's why one of the reasons why I went to Israel to work in kibbutz, okay, and then I had a great time with the Israeli over there, okay, and so and then I look at the situation right now, not only the situation right now, but after observing a lot of knowledges about Jewish history, okay, and then to tell you the truth, I feel kind of betrayed by the kind of so respect, okay, I had created about the Jews, but
Miko, can you put your picture, your in the middle of the screen, please, so we can see you better?
I don't know. That's where?
Just lower your screen take your screen on the bottom from the top and lower it, then we'll get a better view.
If it tilts, take the top
Lower?
and tilt it toward you.
Tilt it towards you.
The top
Top.
of the screen, of the monitor, of the actual.
The camera.
If the
The-
camera's in a.
Yeah.
Camera is not.
There you go. Oh, that's better.
Yes,
Okay,
that's
that's a little
better.
better. But
Yeah,
let me
there
ask
we
you, who are you disappointed by and why?
Who are disappointed? Okay, and who are disappointed? Actually, so the Israeli government, especially in Netanyahu government, and so they just what they are doing, and so I never thought about the kind of I didn't come up with the idea of genocide, crimes. Okay, I didn't have that kind of notion about what the Israel has been doing for a long time. But now the more I know about the history, and so I know about the and what you have discussed with this meeting, and then I found out that's something so that's kind of betray, and just I created an image of Lawrence Arabia and and Exodus and all the movies, and so things like that, and it's a good image. And then the Jewish people got Nobel Prize. How many? And so, for example, Einstein and things like that. And many. Oh, that's a good place. That's why I decided to go to Israel to find something so I can learn quite a lot. I thought at that time I can learn quite a lot from Jewish people. They are really superb. Okay, that kind of image I had. And so I put into the kibbutz, and so I was given a chance to learn Hebrew. Okay, and I went to Ulpan, and I was so impressed by the method by the teachers, Ulpan in Jerusalem. And so that's all, but whole new kind of life. And I enjoyed, and then so when I went to see Aliyah, movement coming from all over the world, and then so they just arrived, and so they just and so people in Israel came to the airport and to welcome them, and so just introduce culture and things like
When
that.
did you go, Miko? When did you go to Israel?
1970, when there was Expo in Osaka. Right now it's Osaka, 55 years later. Okay, so
that means after 1967 war. Yeah.
Right. So
Okay.
1970. So there was TIM, Israel Navigation Company in Kobe in Japan. And then so I was lucky, I got on a boat, not the luxurious, passenger ship, just cargo. Okay, and I was lucky, and so I got boat. I didn't have enough money to
Where
go
do you
to.
live now?
Pardon?
Where do you live?
Where do I live now?
Yeah.
I live in Kobe, in Japan.
In
Uh,
Japan, Kobe, Japan. Japan.
Nico, quickly, didn't you realize kibbutz were Zionist project?
Right. But I didn't know. Just okay. I just wanted to go there to work as a volunteer, and then I thought I could learn quite a lot. Because in that 1960, at that late 1960s, there was a student movement here in Japan too. And then so just I tried to find my identity in a way, and so just America, United States, anytime maybe I will go. But Israel, they're Jews, and so I was so naive. Okay, I was so naive. After I came back, okay, I became more interested in Israel. Okay, and also I worked with the and a Jewish under the tutelage of famous kind of head coach sport. I got involved in the volleyball. Okay, and then so I tried to find out what Jewish people are like, and then I learned quite a lot also. And then so back and forth I went to Israel. Okay, and then so
But in 1970, there were not that many Jews there in Japan.
No,
in Japan there was a Makuya group actually. Jews
How many?
also in Makuya. I don't know how many, but the Makuya
Like 2,000, 1,000?
1,000. No. Actually, so no, less than that. But no,
Less
Makuya
than that.
believe, lost tribe of Jews, one of the lost tribes, a Jewish tribe, has something to do with Japanese. Okay, and Makuya group, Christian group actually, so believes in that kind of I think to me just kind of superstitious belief, but no, they believe really.
Fumiko,
It's a myth. It's a myth.
yeah, Fumiko, you have to distinguish between Israelis and Jews. And Zionists, because not all Jews, most Jews are not Zionists, and most Zionists are not even Jews.
That's right.
So yeah, so the
yeah.
two things.
Right, and so it was at that time also it was very and confused, but naturally I did not pay attention to any politics over there, but just kind of wonderful weather over there, and then so I could walk. Okay, I was taking care of everything,
Right.
roots and so things like that. Just enjoy.
You believe the Israeli propaganda?
Oh, in a way, and then I found out, and not I didn't want to say, but no, I learned quite a lot from them too, and so that's why I still keep contact with the Jews, and but at the same time, and so I just felt that no, I was too naive, and so I just found out the other side.
Samir, if you were born in Israel, you would have been, in all likelihood, a Zionist. Samir.
You are talking to me?
I am talking to you. In all likelihood, you would have been a Zionist. Because you cannot escape that propaganda. Most it's 24/7, 365 days a year from childhood.
You see that the concept of looking at Zionism as an ideology.
Yes.
You get to believe in some ideology. Usually, when you're age 18, maybe 18, 20, you start to think about adopting some ideology. So there are many ideologies. If let us say I was born in Palestine and you said that I would be not really, because I will have maybe many choices of ideology. There is communist ideology, and there is Zionist ideology, and there is Islam and there's Christianity. I mean, many ideologies. So I will choose whatever. So I'm not gonna, I mean, if I am highly educated and
you're being naive. You're being naive.
no, not naive. I will be, I mean, the way I was born in Syria, and I grew up as a Muslim Sunni. But when I was 18 years old, I start to look into other ideologies. It is not just, I mean, looking into where you born. I mean, you hear that you live as a Muslim all your life, and that means that's it. No, I start to look into different ideologies, international ideologies. So in a way, the same thing. I mean, if I was born in Palestine and let us say the Zionism ideology is the dominant, but by that,
if you belong to the Jewish faith, if your parents were Jews and you lived in Israel, 99.9%, in my opinion, you would have been a Zionist.
maybe not.
All right. We need to conclude. We'll go to Shlomo after we. I just want to. Our next simulation, we're going to have Udi Aloni, who is the son of Shulamit Aloni, who was a Knesset member, a very progressive Knesset member. He is a filmmaker and very influential in culture, and is very anti-Zionist. And we don't invite only anti-Zionists or pro-Zionists. We invite everyone, regardless of their vision, because we propose a federal government that to make peace for the people of Israel and Palestine. Let's go to Shlomo.
Well, by the time you get to me, I forget what I want to say. Anyway, so I think the only one here who would not be a Zionist, who if he were born in Israel, is Charles. He may not be a Zionist. Anyway,
Who?
so Charles.
Charles?
He's saying I wouldn't be a Zionist. I doubt it. I was a Zionist when I was 16. And I wasn't even in Israel. So there.
Yeah, maybe.
Let me tell you why I became anti-Zionist, and that's late in my life. Took me years to understand that, because I discovered that Zionism is anti-equality. It's against equality for the Jews. It was against equality for the Jews before it was against equality for the Palestinians. And it is a ideology that does not accept the concept of equality. And any ideology that rejects equality, and I believe Zionism rejects equality. It rejected equality for the Jews in Europe way before the creation of the State of Israel. It basically accepted the idea that Jews are different people and did not insist that Jews would be equal, but rather told the Jews that you need to go somewhere else. And by saying you need to go somewhere else, you're validating inequality. And then you go somewhere else in Palestine and you validate again inequality for the Palestinians and inequality, superiority to the Jews. That's not a ideology that is that I am willing to accept as a ideology to follow.
Joseph,
I think
I agree with you, and I think that Zionism is a foreign ideology to the Middle East. And it is European ideology, and it is copying Nazism, actually, in a way.
Yeah, I
So
think it is complex.
Can I ask you a question, Joseph, about Zionism? Because I'm coming, my history of reading, Shlomo Sand and the history of the Jews for several thousand years and whatnot, I'm coming to a kind of distinction in my mind between what I would refer to as political Zionism and those who believe that they should be able to live in the land of their ancestors years ago, and not that enables them to have inequality over anybody else. So that, if we could call that maybe Zionism or something,
Yeah.
but then there's political Zionism. In my opinion, political Zionism always uses the idea that other kind of Zionism, which I spoke about, is impossible
So that's what
without
they do.
without
Pull all that out, and then they
making
count
a
them,
state by
and
military means.
that's
So
what makes the
yeah,
You
I'm
know-
just wondering, because there does seem to
all
be
counted. No.
people,
Well,
and I'm talking about
plus I can see you having to undo a lot of stuff.
people
Yeah,
who
that-
are
Michael,
Isra-
can you mute your, go ahead.
know,
people who consider themselves Zionists but want equality with Palestinians. So
Yeah. So
You know.
let me explain. Let me, Charles, just for a second. Let me explain. There was the original Zionism that was like cultural Zionism or spiritual Zionism, where you have very big minds like Martin Buber and Hugo Bergman and Henrietta Sold and Ahad Ha'am, Ginsberg, and then even Einstein and Hannah Arendt kind of were on that side. It looked at the Middle East as a place to settle, maybe, and create some home, spiritual home or something like that. But it was not the political one. You're right. The political Zionism took over, of course, and so when we say anti-Zionist, we mean the political, which was racist, whether they acknowledge it or not, and which, in a way, was along the Nazism line. And in fact, there was a lot of interaction between the Nazis and the Zionism. And the Nazis loved Zionism. Eichmann, I'm reading about Eichmann now. He was a Zionist. He started learning Hebrew, believe it, and because they saw that this is a fantastic solution to get rid of the Jews, because they thought about Madagascar too, right? But then they said, you know what? Okay, all right, go to the Middle East, and so there was this how to say it, synergy between the two. In fact, there is a very important book by Tony Greenstein called Zionism During the Holocaust. I highly recommend. And also for Victor, if we still
What's the name of the book?
Zionism During the Holocaust. Tony Greenstein. I can put it on the chart if you like. The Tony Greenstein is
I
now
would
under.
like to add something. When Balfour Declaration was declared, the only person who objected to that declaration was a Jewish lord in the House of Lords in Britain. And his objection was that it was the base of ethnic cleansing the Jews from England and France. Because, the British at that time and the French were not any less anti-Semite than Hitler.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And this was a big fear by
And
the...
also, Zionism is not the only thing that could lead you to fear of the other. For me, myself, I started being even anti-nationalist when I was 14, or anti-religious when I was 14, because I couldn't see those teachings, seeing the other as an equal. And that, for me as a human being, I cannot look at anybody and see him less than me. When I walk through Africa and I see a woman breastfeeding her kid the same way my mom breastfeeded me, I cannot see any difference because of her color. You know, it doesn't matter when you are aware of what you are taught. Because to be honest with you, you know, all the history that we have been fed, not only in Israel, but in the rest of the world, is a fabricated history, is a history that was in the service of the masters and not of the population. You know, if you read the American history, you would think America is great. Even our president the other day says, I want to make America great. I am asking him, when was America great? When we enslaved the people, or when we, genocided the natives?
Yeah.
You know, there is a something, you know, it's time to think out of the box. And it's where I come in here and agree with Joseph. Yeah, with Joseph, that everything that have been tried in the Middle East was imposed and planned outside. Even if it was planned in the United Nations, it was under the influence of the imperialists. And it's time to think independently from the imperialists as Palestinians and as Jewish people.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And stop the genocide of Palestinians.
And
Because
I
that's just like the Nazis, they did the Holocaust. Now the Israelis doing that to the Palestinians.
Don't worry about the genocide now, because they will never, ever get rid of us.
I know, but I mean, that's what they think. They think that if they commit the final solution to the
genocides are usually the end of the genocider and not the genocide people.
That's true.
That's true.
That's history. That's history.
It is a suicide too.
I agree.
I
agree.
Genocide is the end of the genocider, and not. It happened when there was no communications in the world. You know, the natives, the Pagos people. You know, but now it cannot happen again.
Yeah,
that's right. Just like, I mean, the Nazism died after the Holocaust. Zionism and the apartheid state of Israel will be the end of it. After the genocide of the Palestinians.
I'm going to leave now, and thank you, Joseph Abisar, for giving us this opportunity, and I really appreciate it.
We need to close, so we'll see you in the next simulation.
Mustafa, come again to the next meeting.
It's very hard for me to travel to Jaffa. I would have traveled, but it's very hard for me. Yalla, see you next time.
All right.
Where are you living now, Gail? Where are you?
I am not Gail. Gail is my wife. I am Mustafa. And
Mustafa, where are you living now, Mustafa?
I'm living in Utah, in the United States, for now.
Oh, in the United States. But you cannot go to Java, to Palestine?
I can go, but I am
You cannot go to Jaffa
century
now?
old. It's very hard for me to travel. I'm 75 almost, so yeah.
Well, you should not worry, because I mean, you're an American, right? You should travel.
You know, I'm not worried. I'm not worried. It's the travel that is tiring for me.
Okay.
Oh, I see. It is tiring.
Thank you so much, everybody.
See you guys.
Thank you.